seeking safeguards from stalkers. The most dangerous time for many victims is after they file for protective order.
Charles came to town looking for you and murders her.
Yes, he cut out her heart, cut off her face.
They're not taking you seriously.
The first officer I spoke to laughed. You're getting stalked?
An officer never resubmitted the warrant.
That's correct. He walked into the house, struck her with the axe, and killed her.
Romance to rage, adoration online to in-person obsession. Tonight, you'll hear cautionary tales as stories of infatuation have captured the country's attention with Netflix shows like I Am a Stalker, You, and most recently, Baby Reindeer. Now, many of these popular shows about fixation are not fiction. Real-life tragedies highlight the challenges people face when seeking safeguards from stalkers while living in fear of potential harm. The most dangerous time for many victims is after they file for protective order. And studies found the violation rate was 40 to 50%. So the question is, are courts protecting targets of these stalkers, and how do they sort out the real threats from those who seek using restraining and protective orders as manipulative weapons to retaliate against a partner in a breakup? Now, my first guest, Michael, says what started as a simple DM from a female stranger has become much more alarming. She's been stalking him for 2 years now. He wants an order of protection, but says as a man and fitness trainer, he's not being taken seriously. Take a look.
My stalker found me on social media. A year later, she was pretty much stalking me every day in person. And now we're here 2 years later, and she's still stalking me. I was living in Indiana, and I got a message request. She started just going crazy with the messages. At that point, I blocked her. I announced online that I was moving to Houston to help my friend open her gym. At my grand opening for my gym, this woman approaches. Once she tells me her name, I'm like, oh my God, it's her. I was leaving the gym one night and I saw the white car following me.
You wanted to know what side of town I stay on, so you followed me home.
She was just leaving notes on my car saying that she was my stalker. We were meant to be together, that God sent her to stalk me.
Are you reading it?
I'm not reading it.
The most bizarre thing she left, it's probably the food.
That was probably opened and poisoned. It's kind of difficult because she hasn't actually done anything illegal.
I tried to get a restraining order. They said that I had to have been in a relationship with her. They told me that they couldn't arrest her because she hadn't broken the law.
Pause.
You're not welcome to be my friend.
It don't matter. We've never had a conversation out
not
loud.
going to.
My stalker has showed up at my job upwards of 20, 30 times.
Bro, she's back.
My stalker showed up to my school almost every day for 2 months straight.
Why do you know what school I go to and why do you know my schedule?
Have we
And
ever?
you keep doing this?
Have we ever locked eyes before?
My stalker has left probably about 50 things on my car. Notes, coupons, food, pictures. I definitely feel like I'm trapped in a corner.
You've been very clear. I don't want to deal with you. Go away, leave me alone. You've been very clear.
Absolutely. Yeah, I felt the need to be polite at the beginning. Being who I am, that's just who I am. But after a while, I just had to
Be clear. You say you've had problems with people don't take it as seriously. It's like, you're a guy, she's a girl, come on, quit whining, get over yourself, move on. They don't take this seriously.
Right.
For every 100 men that commit intimate partner violence, there are 75 women that do it. So people don't realize it, but it goes back the other way. You can be in danger in this situation. You realize that, right?
Absolutely.
But they're not taking you seriously when you bring this to the court. When you talk to police about it, they're like, yeah, come on. What are they telling you?
Initially, the first officer I spoke to laughed. He was like, you're getting stalked. She's stalking you, not the other way around. So that was very frustrating. They also said that since we had no relationship with each other, we weren't roommates, we weren't family, I couldn't get a protective order. So that was also frustrating. Yeah, so it's just been a long, frustrating road.
Yeah, and she's been very clear about her intentions. She said, I found you on Instagram to start with. I want you to be my gym crush in apartment sessions, one-on-one, get to know each other, come over. I have a white car, following you, we've seen each other, et cetera. I mean, take some of these just in isolation. They don't seem that ominous, right? They don't seem that threatening, but across a 2-year period, and then you moved cities, right?
Yes.
And when you moved cities, what happened?
So initially I started on Instagram, and then I moved to Houston about a year and a half ago, and then she moved to Houston. In hindsight, I didn't know that she didn't live here. It wasn't until later on when her mom told me she moved down here for me.
From where?
California.
Yeah, that's pretty far.
Yeah, to say the least.
We were able to track down Asia, and she spoke candidly with us about her connection to Michael. We did a tape with her, which I was glad that she was willing to do, but I didn't want her here. I didn't want to put her in the same room with you. Let's listen to that tape.
I met Michael off of Instagram. I sent him an email. I said, hey, do you want to work out together? And he was like, I'm moving. So I just started emailing him back to back. And he got to Houston and was like, if anybody has ever contacted me, let me know. I'm going to be in town. And I said, is there a way you can train me? Then next thing you know, he responded through the email. He said, yes. So after that, I drove all the way to Houston from California.
To find him?
Yeah. So I popped up on him, and he was there. And ever since then, I have his number, too. So we're trying to connect, and we're still working on that. So I would say I don't want to rush anything. I would want him to pursue me when he's ready. I don't want to scare him, because I'm just a lovely girl. I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to ask every day until I get an answer. If the answer is no, I'm gonna have to harass him again and again until I get a better answer, because that's what girls do. I feel like God will tell me when it's gonna harm anyone or put any person in jeopardy. No one has came up to me and said, like, directly, leave.
You can't come here.
I can go with her. I can go with her. People can fight all day.
Okay, now let's unpack this for a second. Now, that's the first time you've seen that.
It is.
What's your reaction?
It's just crazy to hear her say that she was never told she wasn't welcome and that she's going to keep doing it every day. And it's just frustrating to hear that.
Yeah. Did you notice the piercings in her nose?
Yes, the M.
Yeah. Yeah, those aren't W's upside down. Those are M's for Michael.
Yeah.
All right, well, coming up, we're going to hear more from Michael's stalker, why she says she won't stop trying to win him over next. Make better sleep your New Year's resolution with Cozy Earth's best-selling bamboo sheet set and bamboo pajama set. The bamboo sheet set is crafted from 100% premium viscose from bamboo, delivering unmatched softness and breathability to keep you cool and comfortable all night. These sheets get softer with every wash and are backed by a 10-year warranty, ensuring long-lasting quality. Pair your sheets with a bamboo pajama set, a timeless classic designed with soft stretch knit fabric that sleeps cooler than cotton. Its lightweight, breathable design keeps your temperature just right through the night, so you wake up feeling refreshed. Cozy Earth helps turn your home into a sanctuary where relaxation and comfort come naturally. A better year starts with better sleep. Wrap yourself in Cozy Earth. Don't wait. Head to cozyearth.com/Phil now and use my exclusive code PHIL for up to 40% off. That's cozyearth.com/Phil. If you get a post-purchase survey, say you heard about Cozy Earth from the Dr. Phil podcast. Are you ready to jumpstart your health in 2025? Lumen can help. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It measures your metabolism through your breath and via the app tells you whether you're burning fat or carbs. It then provides tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workouts, sleep, and stress management. Start your day by breathing into Lumen to check your metabolism. Based on your results, it gives you a personalized nutrition plan for the day. You can also use it before and after meals or workouts to understand how your body responds in real time. Your metabolism is your body's engine. Optimizing it can lead to better energy, easier weight management, improved fitness, and more. Take the next step towards better health. Visit lumen.me/Dr. Phil for 20% off your Lumen.
I definitely want people to know that men can go through this too, that a stalker doesn't have to be physically harming you for it to be wrong. For all the men out there, I feel like we are allowed to speak up when we feel like we're being, wronged. I think the stalker subject, harassment subject, domestic violence subject, as a man, it's not taken seriously. And as a Black man, it's definitely not taken seriously.
I'm curious, when you heard her talking about this, see this note, God told me to stalk you, how does that impact you?
It makes me upset because I'm a man of God myself, and to use God's name in vain like that, to rationalize your own motives is a lot.
Do you fear this could get really bad?
Yes. So once she started explaining her reasoning, it got more real to me that it could be a real threat because she wasn't in her right state of mind. So at that point, like, she can be erratic and she can really go over the edge. And I had to protect myself, protect my girlfriend, protect people around me. So, it's really living life with anxiety and being on the edge and having to really pay attention to what's going on around me at all times. There's a lot.
Yeah. Now, I've not met her. I can't diagnose her. What I can tell you is that kind of commitment across time is a red flag. That's a bad sign. That can get ugly in a hurry, and they get to the point where they say, well, if I can't have him, then nobody can.
Right.
And they can really get unpredictable in terms of what they're going to do. People, sometimes they'll see something like this and say, who does that? And when people say that to me, it's not rhetorical. They really mean, who does that?
Right.
And the answer to that is people who really feel entitled. They really personalize things to the point of saying, because I'm entitled to this, everything that you do, these type individuals can take personally, where they say, this is an affront to me that you have a girlfriend. It's an affront to me that you're not responding. It'll turn around to the point that she becomes a victim, not you.
Right.
And that you're in some way offending her, that you're hurting her. And so does Asia acknowledge that her extreme behavior amounts to stalking? Well, we asked her point blank. Let's hear what she had to say.
Are you stalking Michael?
Okay, so I was last year, but I stopped. I used to check up on him, and then I kind of forgot about him. So I dropped off some gifts. Just saying hey, I'm not a bad person. You can always come outside and talk to me. You don't have to be scared. I just want to be his biggest fan. Honestly, I can be in the front, I can be in the back. It doesn't matter. You're gonna see me, probably. You're probably gonna be right there. So it doesn't matter. I will always be your friend, no matter the distance, no matter the closeness, no matter anything, I'm just a free person. You have a new friend in town. Why not approach her with a better attitude? Approach her with a hug.
Okay, do you hear the last thing she's saying? Why don't you change you?
Right.
It's not, I need to recognize boundaries. I need to respect someone's wishes and accept reality. Why don't you change and approach me with a better attitude? The shift is already taking place, and that's the beginning of a situation that could be out of hand. Now, Isabella Garcia is the founding attorney and CEO of the Dallas-Fort Worth-based family law practice, Garcia Windsor. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Phil.
You've dealt with this kind of thing before, and this can turn bad. What can he do?
Well, unfortunately, under the penal code, which is the criminal legal system, which would initiate through police report, he's very limited there because of what the police officers mentioned. There was no prior dating relationship. She didn't specifically threaten to harm him in a very specific way. But he does have recourse with a civil restraining order. Now, sometimes this can agitate her more, so we would typically recommend additional safety measures like sealing property records or your location, doing a lot of things to protect yourself, because in the end, if you're dealing with someone who's mentally ill, you cannot be too cautious.
And the problem that you face in this is you are out there publicly. I mean, it's essential to your business that you have to let people know where you are, what you're doing to attract clients. It's kind of a catch-22. You either go undercover or you live your life and do your business. So he's in a difficult predicament.
It is difficult, Dr. Phil. And in these cases, we take it case by case, very fact sensitive, and customize, the advice and figure out the best plan for him individually.
Mm-hmm. Robin can tell you, I've had stalkers that have sat outside the gates at Paramount for 2.5 years?
Yes.
Every day.
Every day.
Rain or shine, trying to get in the gate, wearing disguises, doing different things. So you can't relax. I mean, you have to be vigilant. And we're not saying she's mentally ill. We're not saying she's not. We're just saying you have to do what you have to do to be mindful of it. And you can do things like put her picture at the front door of the gym, let staff know this person, if they show up, everybody needs to be on alert. You need to call authorities. You need to do whatever to protect you. And raising awareness helps a lot. And even a restraining order is a civil instrument. I mean, maybe the court can do something, but the police are not going to come arrest her, right?
That is correct. Not on a civil restraining order.
Yeah, so you're kind of left to your own devices, which means you've got to be creative and, build protections around you.
Yeah, and it's frustrating, and I feel like a lot of times no one does anything until you are harmed, and I don't need to get to that point.
No, because it's not a problem until it is. And we're going to talk to a girl who never imagined her summer boyfriend would do anything to keep her from breaking up with him. You're going to find out that was wrong. My dear friend and Merritt Street Media contributor Chris Harrison spoke with my next guest, Caitlin, and Assistant Chief Jeremy Polk, who are bonded together by a series of unfortunate events. Caitlin was preparing for college when she met a man 10 years older. Their relationship only lasted for the summer, but the impact of his actions will last forever.
Tell us when you met Charles for the first time.
He was just very persistent about taking me on a date. We went out to Grapevine Lake. He was 29, I was 18. We dated a little over 2 months.
You decided to call this thing off and break up with him.
Yes. But then after that, he began stalking me. He showed up to my dorm. My RA says that we need to file a police report. A UNT police officer comes. That lieutenant actually ends up being Officer Polk.
You just happened to catch his name and put 2 and 2 together that this young girl, Caitlin, was filing a complaint against this guy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Charles Bryan, I was like, that sounds familiar. We just arrested him last night.
Charles, what's happening, buddy? Lieutenant Polk, you remember talking to me?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. And then after she showed us some emails, some text messages, that all made it very real for me very fast.
And so you put up the criminal trespass, and did he adhere to this? Did he honor it at all?
No, not at all.
He shows up to my dorm again. I called the 911 campus police number, and I'm hiding in my suite mate's closet. I'm afraid that he's gonna find a way to open that door.
By the time they got there, he had already left the building. They found him outside where he had shucked his t-shirt and was working out.
What's your name?
Even after this arrest, he's still corresponding with you. It's not stopped.
Non-stop.
I said that we were going to pursue a stalking case if he didn't stop trying to contact her.
So after we look at all these messages and we charged him with stalking, I just figured we're going to go arrest him as fast as we can. I said, every text message, every phone call, every email, I will use that to get a new warrant written and have you arrested again until you're just so far buried in this, you're never gonna get out of it.
Now, one of the reasons that we're talking about this tonight is you've heard me say that in these kind of stories, there are a number of stakeholders. You've got the victims, you've got police officers, you've got prosecutors, you've got judges. You've got jailers who often run the jail and make decisions about how long and under what circumstances they release people. And we have to use common sense about who's released and who's not. And we're putting violent offenders on the street sometimes when we've got police officers that are doing their jobs. They're getting people off the street, they're turning them in, and they're back out on the street way too soon. Now, in this situation, Caitlin, you dated this individual for the summer.
Yes,
right?
about 2.5 months.
And what caused it to end?
I started to see some warning signs, some red flags that he wasn't a good man.
Too controlling?
Too controlling, manipulative, just a little wrong in the head. I thought he should be a little more matured than what he was, especially for being 29.
Mm-hmm. And so you thought, I just need to ease out of this.
Yeah.
August 23rd of 2016, Caitlin writes, look, just leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you. And Charles responds, babe, stop. And you want to talk to me. You're just angry at me in the current situation. I'm not angry at you. I love the blank out of you. Caitlin, this relationship isn't going to work. You're controlling. You try to manipulate me into seeing you, and I don't want to be in this relationship. Very clear.
Yes, very clear.
No ambiguity
Yes.
there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out, you're gone. Charles, I'm bummed at the moment, but I'm going to prove to you I'm going to be one of the best things to ever happen to you. So he's not turning loose.
Yeah, and that's clear.
As extreme as Charles' behavior was, it was no comparison to what he did next.
But it turns out there was a murder. The body was found at Lake Grapevine.
Caitlin's hometown. Charles and Caitlin, I think, had spent some time at Grapevine Lake. Somebody called. It was the detective working that case. The first thing he said to me was, Charles Bryan is our suspect in this Grapevine Lake murder. And I just was like, what?
So Officer Polk arrests him for stalking, and then he's released 48 hours later. He goes up to Denton, where he meets Jackie Vandergriff. The next day, her body is found at Grapevine Lake.
So Charles came to town looking for you and murders her.
Yes. An innocent woman. He didn't just dismember her body either. He cut out her heart, cut off her face, and just, what does that mean? I don't know. But the fact that he dumped her body at Grapevine Lake, it felt like it was a message to me.
Well, that protective order may have actually saved Caitlin's life.
And that's exactly what they're for. It gives us the power to arrest someone which we otherwise wouldn't have had that power.
If you're worried about IRS collection tactics, you don't have to face them alone. Tax Network USA is here to help. Tax Network USA is the nation's premier tax relief firm and has negotiated over $1 billion in tax relief for clients. Our services include penalty forgiveness, hardship programs where you might not have to repay anything until your tax debt expires, and offer in compromise solutions for lump sum settlements. Whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, our experts are ready to assist you. Even if you're behind on taxes due to missing personal or business records, Tax Network USA can guide you through the process. Tax season is long over, and for the IRS, that means it's collection season. To schedule complimentary consultation, call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Dr. Phil. Don't let the IRS's aggressive tactics control your life. Take charge of your financial future. Visit tnusa.com/Dr. Phil today. Now, Officer Polk says once he heard Charles' name, it actually made all the sense in the world. You pieced this together really fast.
It was a wild sequence of events because I had actually met Charles the night before she ever called us for the first time. And because I was just driving down a road stopped him for traffic violations, and then we ended up actually stopping next to her residence hall. And I didn't think anything of that at the time. That was just a routine interaction until I heard his name the next day when Caitlin called us.
Wow. So what made you call the next day?
He showed up to my dorm. I hadn't given him prior information as to where that dorm location was. So when I get a knock at the door, I've got some girls in the room. This is a week before classes started, first flight week. And we're all just chit-chatting. We get a knock at the door, and I'm like, oh, it's probably the RA because we're being a little rowdy. I open the door, and I see it's him. And I'm completely stunned. And I just sent him a text, and I said that this is over, and I was very clear about it. And that's when I had to make a police report, as advised by my RA. I didn't really want to, but I'm so glad we did. It's honestly crazy how the pieces just like fell into place. And that's when Officer Polk connected the dots that I was being stalked before I knew I was being stalked.
You didn't look shocked when you found out what he did. And you've dealt with so many relationships over the years.
Yeah.
You piece this together in terms of his behavior really fast. Why?
Well, you can see the steps that he was taking. In all these cases, it grows so fast and it goes quickly. And I'm sure Officer Polk sees this all the time in these situations. It's not a big leap for these things to get so extreme so fast. And what Caitlin did a very good job. Thank God for that RA. Start the paper trail. Be your own advocate. Be proactive. Get that trail going. If that trail didn't exist, Officer Polk couldn't have done his job. So you have to take that first step and be your own advocate.
It takes both parties.
Yeah, it really does. And people always say, what's the point in getting a TRO or whatever, temporary restraining or whatever? People stab right through the paper, they'll shoot right through the paper, it doesn't matter. It does matter because it's in the system. It takes a lot of steps out of the process if you pick up the phone and call, because all of that's already adjudicated, right? And it gives police the ability to move with intention at that point.
It basically gives you powers to do things you wouldn't otherwise be able to do. Like I normally can't arrest someone just for being at a location or for sending a text message or making a phone call. So it's a very important piece.
And you had just pulled him over previously on a normal traffic stop. And if Caitlin hadn't put his name in the system and on the radar, that wouldn't have meant anything to you.
Yeah, I was even standing in the call center when she called in. And when I saw the name being typed in the computer, I was like, I'm a part of this. I just met this person. You know, I'm already involved. So that was real for me.
Yeah, so if you're thinking, what good's a piece of paper do? It does a lot because it short circuits a lot of things that can protect you in the moment. Do you agree, Isabella?
Yes, 100%. It's in the system. It allows for additional police reports and potentially escalate the situation, not just with the civil judge, but with the criminal system as well.
Now, there was a Facebook message sent to Caitlin actually from prison, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
delusional.
Yeah, he writes, there's a lot to say. I just hope you're doing well. I'm not guilty of the murder or the other BS. They fabricated evidence. I wish I could say I don't think about you, but I'd be lying. Anyway, take care. Much love, Caitlin.
Yeah.
This is a guy that is in prison.
Serving time.
For cutting somebody's heart out and face off. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you psychologically, cutting her face off has a lot of implications for you. And then him writing this is really disturbing. Mm-hmm. How long is he in for? 25 to life?
He's serving a life sentence, but he can get out in 33 years on parole.
Yeah.
I'll deal with that when I have to deal with that.
Yeah, which is decades from now.
Yeah, we got some time. I'm very grateful because most victims of stalking don't get the luxury of having their stalker locked away that long.
Yeah.
Most only serve a year to 2 years, and that time is oftentimes split in half.
Yeah. And Mikhail, you see my point about saying these things can go south.
Absolutely.
Coming up, an axe murder victim and a single mom of 3 who repeatedly warned police about her violent ex. We'll hear from her father after the break. This next story is gut-wrenching, but all too common for domestic violence victims. Now, Chris Harrison sat down with Jerry, a grieving parent whose daughter was murdered in an axe attack, allegedly by her youngest child's father years after getting a protective order. Take a look.
Tell me about your daughter, Julie.
She was my third child, the youngest. She was a very good mother. Around 2018, she ran into Mr. DeWitt. They started to pursue a relationship. On a Saturday afternoon, she came home and he wound up throwing a playpen at her, and she required 5 staples in her head. 2019, she got a restraining order against him. Mid-November 2022, he sent her 200 texts. The texts were very threatening and hostile. That was a violation of the restraining order. He did enough that he should have been arrested, and 5 days later, he left his parents' house, grabbed an axe, got into a rideshare vehicle, drove for an hour to where my daughter lives, walked into the house, and struck her with the axe and killed her. To this day, I have nightmares about the last 5 minutes of her life. I just can't stop thinking of that and what she must have gone through.
There was a failure. There are crazy and horrible, horrific things are going to happen, but when they don't have to,
that hurts the most, yes. She did everything right.
She went above and beyond to try and be her own advocate. It sounds like she didn't find an advocate that was standing behind her in the judicial system.
They didn't follow through on it, and that is something that we're hoping to get some clarity on. She was let down by the system. This did not have to happen. This did not have to happen.
I'm back with Father Jerry and their family attorney, Michael Rosnick. It's so good to meet you, and I'm so sorry for the circumstances.
Thank you, Dr. Phil.
This was on the radar. This wasn't something that came out of nowhere.
No, a lot of what was spoken about earlier, my daughter did take advantage of. She did do all the right things. However, I want to say the system failed, but the system is only as good as the components in it, and I think it's more or less some of the components didn't work the way that they should have in protecting her.
And you say that an officer never resubmitted the warrant for processing.
That's correct. He completed it, submitted it to the state's attorney. The state's attorney handed it back to him for some clarity, and it's unclear at this stage what happened to it after that. It never surfaced again until a few days after my daughter's murder.
In the court documents, she had said, I'm scared for my safety, for my children and I.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
This is what I mean about stakeholders having to do their jobs. I mean, that's your concern about this, right?
Yes, Dr. Phil, and thank you for having us. Respectfully, we feel this is a case of civil wrongdoing. It's clear cut. This was a preventable tragedy, and the purpose of our lawsuit and going public with this is for awareness and to hopefully prevent another tragedy like this.
Yeah. And Robin, you hear it all the time, people saying, if you're in a situation, just leave. And your comment is, no, you don't just leave. You got to have a plan to leave safely, right?
That's correct. You can't just leave, because that's the most dangerous time in your life when you're with an abuser. You have to plan ahead. You have to be very careful about leaving. You have to plan ahead as far as tell someone, those that know and that you trust, that you're in that situation. Then you have to have a plan, and you have to tell others of your plan. You have to have a place to go. You have to have a bag packed, especially if you have children. You have to have familiar toys. You have to have clothes. Very important to have all of your papers in order, birth certificates, everything you need to start a new life and to get out and stay out, and especially a private place to go, a shelter. Have everything in place before you leave, and make sure you tell someone where you're going so they can help you, and make sure it's private and your abuser could never find you.
Your daughter did everything right.
Yes.
That's the that's the problem here. And even with all the things that Robin's talking about, letting people know, having a plan, all of that, that's when everybody has to care and do their job right. And if they don't, that's where the breakdown is. And that's the frustrating part about this, is it's not just another number. It's not just another file. It's a human life.
Well, in Caitlin's situation, Officer Polk said, you know, the size of that police force mattered. He had time. If you're in a bigger city, they don't have the time. They don't take the time. And when people talk about defunding the police, less police, well, this is what you're defunding. You have less time. Yeah. These police forces, these investigators, detectives, they're only as strong as the weakest link. Mm-hmm. And that's what fell through the cracks here.
And this is something you'll never get out of your head.
No, I'm hoping to get clarity on all of the facts. And part of the process is waiting all that out until the criminal trial finishes, and then any civil action that we have underway finishes, to get all my facts, to understand, you know, just exactly how this could happen. And what I can say is my daughter's death has resulted in actions being taken in the state of Connecticut, where they passed a law that now, when a similar situation is presented to the police, and based upon conditions, a GPS tracking monitor will be put on the subject of the protective order, and the police, as well as the person who's submitted the protective order, will be notified that that person is near them in either home or work. That would have been ideal in this situation here. Okay, however, that didn't happen until my daughter's death, and part of the results of my daughter's death was to get that legislation passed in the Connecticut legislature.
Yeah, and you know that's a great result, but it comes at way too high a price.
That doesn't help us.
Yeah. My final thoughts when we come back.
Is there anything that you wish there was more of as a victim, as someone who's gone through this, that you would like to see from law enforcement, from just in our culture and society?
We need more Officer Polks. We need more people that will take a case and actually handle it like it was a family member, because in my eyes, Officer Polk treated me like his own daughter. But at the same time, that's how cases need to be handled. That's the standard of how cases need to be handled. If we don't have law enforcement that has the care that Officer Polk does, we won't get anywhere.
Jerry and his family and I would like to go out of our way to praise the police and the good work that they generally do. They have a tough, underappreciated job. And generally, they do the right thing. But unfortunately, in this case, human error took place here. And had the right things been done, it's certainly, we might not be here today.
Yeah. And these things happen way more than you would think. And at least 25% of women by the age of 25 are targeted in some way for violence, whether it's sexual molestation, rape, physical violence. And it is probably one of the most underreported crimes in the country.
Yeah, and I know Julie did everything she could. She was her own best advocate, but I can't emphasize enough, we're all rational people sitting here, and we think rationally. I can get myself out of this. I can just send a text, and they'll be rational. They're not rational, as we've just discussed today. They're not. You have to be proactive. You got to be your own best advocate and start that chain and start that paper trail.
You know, I've said before that one of the things that makes good people vulnerable to bad things happening is we don't go to that dark place. I mean, in the normal functioning, you don't think about going and killing somebody with an axe. You don't think about murdering somebody and cutting their heart out and their face off. You don't even think about that. That gives them the advantage because you don't protect against that sort of thing, because you don't even conceive of it. We think healthily, they think dark, and that gives them the edge in getting the advantage to commit the crime. And there are red flags, like Caitlin showing up at your dorm. I mean, he gets that information. It's a red flag. Jealousy, isolation, mood swings, and of course, physical harm and addiction and alcohol abuse don't ever help. We're going to put those on the website because you got somebody you love and care about that's being subjected to any of these kind of things. I can tell you, it's not that it builds up. It can go there in a hurry. Yes. I can't tell you how many people went from he never laid a hand on me to hitting them in the head with a hammer and setting them on fire in the garage. It just goes from nothing to everything. So you've got to pay attention to those red flags. This is why it is so important for our courts to pay attention and hold to account those people that are violent offenders. We cannot continue to turn these people back out onto an unsuspecting public with, there's no warning. We don't send them out with something on their shirt that says, I'm a danger. They'll hit somebody in the head with a pipe, go in, and they're back out on the street with no bail and no warning to all the people they're on the street with that they're subject to picking up a pipe and hitting somebody in the head. We just turn them back out on the street. That cannot continue to happen. And when you have people like we're talking about here and the court turns a deaf ear when they're warned over and over and over again, and you say, well, they can't tell. Sometimes the person's lying. Well, sometimes they're not. And there are things the court can do. There are resources. There are court psychologists. There are ad litems that don't have a stake on either side of an issue that can evaluate everybody involved and determine who's lying and who's a danger. They just need to be willing to do it instead of stamping it and moving on. This can cost people their lives. We need to pay attention to this. I want to thank all of my guests tonight. A special thanks to Merit Street Media contributor Chris Harrison. Thank you so much, Chris, as usual. Special thanks to attorney Isabella Garcia. Thank you all for joining us here at Merit Street Media. We have news and entertainment for the whole family. We will see you next time.